Welcome to our Wednesday set of presentations. We've only got 5 today. So the way it's going to work is we're going to be pretty tight in the morning. Then we have sort of a longer lunch break than normal, like almost a whole hour really before we start the 2 afternoon theses. So we're going to start with Jonathan today. Jonathan, I've enjoyed talking about his topic a lot. He sits right in front of my desk in class. And I think we started with the topic of some sort of a cultural thing and ended up with deepfake. And so I really like his topic. I think it's really relevant today. It's actually a great topic to just read and to learn about. Anyway, Jonathan says, I would like to thank Mr. Zorin, my thesis advisor, my parents for supporting me in CBCS throughout my entire years of being here, and Mr. Wade for being a great mentor and guiding me through the process of thesis writing. His title is Seeing Isn't Believing: Why Deepfake AI Needs to Be Regulated in the Public Sphere. All right, Jonathan, I'm going to get the timer set up, and I'll tell you when you can start. All right, you can start whenever you're ready.
Imagine you are a government official and you are walking into work one morning. You walk in the office with your Starbucks on your right hand and a briefcase full of confidential documents on your left. The day was nice. The weather was warm and the sun was shining brightly. You greet your coworkers, then out of nowhere, something catches your eye. You are greeted with a rather bizarre video on the office TVs. A video of Tariff President Donald Trump and billionaire Elon Musk engaging in a rather peculiar scenario. In the video, Elon Musk has his feet on full display, and Donald Trump bows down to kiss his feet. Across the video are plastered the words, "Long live the real king." The real king is not Donald Trump. It's Elon Musk. The room falls silent as others quickly gather, equally as petrified as you are. Clearly, the systems have been infiltrated with AI-generated deepfakes. The emergence of this nifty technology occurred in 2017, when a Reddit moderator began posting videos of face-swapping technology and posted pornographic content using the likeness of celebrities. Over time, the transition shifted from the internet to the mainstream media. It received its first mainstream attention when Furious 7 became the first notable movie to utilize deepfake technology in order to recreate the deceased actor Paul Walker. Other movie studios would soon apply this technology to their production line as well, in order to replace stunt doubles or even to de-age actors. The term deepfake is derived from 2 terms. The first is deep, which is a reference to deep learning in AI, a processing system in several layers in one network, and fake refers to the output, the fabricated content. Deep learning and generative adversarial networks are 2 components utilized to generate the output of a deepfake. This process would be repeated until the media itself can no longer be verified as fake. However, deepfake technology has spread widely online and became a growing issue. A report concluded that in 2023, the number of deepfake videos online is 95,820 videos, representing a 550% increase since 2019. Unfortunately, deepfake pornography makes up 98% of those videos. Among these videos, South Korean celebrities, known for their cult-like following fan base, constitutes to 53% of the individuals represented in deepfake pornography. As AI rapidly expands and continues to become an integral part of our everyday lives, it becomes increasingly crucial to be able to address the non-consensual uses of deepfake to individuals in the content. The issue with deepfake lies in their moral and ethical implications. Using someone's likeness without their consent is like stealing their identity, violating their right on how their image is preserved and presented. While the technology in itself offers significant advancements in the field of artificial intelligence, its widespread accessibility has led to many misuse by individuals who want to exploit it for their own personal gain at the expense of harming others. Therefore, deepfake technology should be regulated from the general public in order to dampen the chaos in society. For starters, deepfake technology serves as a gateway to societal risks. It violates personal privacy and consent. Deepfake videos, as aforementioned, have had a staggering 550% increase since 2019. Unsurprisingly, major celebrities become the forefront victims of deepfake pornography. Celebrities are willingly and unwillingly prone to get more spotlight compared to your average Joe. Deepfake technology amplifies such risks, enabling the rapid creation of fabricated videos. People's obsession with certain celebrities also contributes to violating their privacy. The public being able to receive access to these kinds of technology allows individuals to engage in multiple misuses, ignoring its potential benefits. If the general public is given access to this technology without restraint, then their exploitation exists without proper limits. Moreover, deepfakes have been increasingly used for exploitative and harmful purposes. For example, in a case in 2019, a Malaysian political aide was depicted into having a homosexual relationship with the prime minister. This alleged video also intended calls for alleged corruption by the minister, which in turn destabilized the Malaysian government. On a smaller scale, Ali Bongo Onidaba, the president of Gabon, was suddenly published online through deepfake. During this period, it has been months since he was last seen from the public eye, leading to the popular consensus that he was either dead or potentially in poor health. This video sparked a national crisis to the Gabonese people, as they were led to believe that their government was intentionally covering up the condition of their president. The malevolent intent, combined with the easy accessibility of deepfake technology online, illustrates the significant harm it might deliver to the world. The exploitation of creating propagandistic material using deepfake highlights the looming threat this technology has if it were to stay in the public's hands. Ideologies cannot be pushed out by anyone with any belief. In a modern era, digital platforms serve as our primary source of information, and deepfakes endanger the authenticity and reliability of online information. With much power comes great responsibility. Deepfake is simply a technology with too much power to manipulate literacy media. The negative impact of deepfakes is amplified through the presence of social media, as mainstream social media platforms have now been preferred over the years. Social media platforms allows anyone to publish information with a potentially wide audience, bypassing traditional gatekeepers such as fact-checkers and editors. They act like a river without dams. A flood of unverified news and articles exists freely online, regardless of its accuracy and its authenticity. The ease of access leads to people relying less on traditional news outlets and more to whatever is served on the internet. Second, existing legal frameworks are insufficient to address the misuse of deepfake technology. In short, lawmakers fail to outrun the immense progress of deepfake technology. On Article 50 of the AI Act, made by the European legislation, they acknowledge that AI systems are purely designed to be interactive with the user. However, this interactiveness also carries risks of deception. Since deepfake is created to be sculpted in hyperrealism, there are transparent requirements for individuals to be able to recognize that they're interacting with AI. Some of these regulations have been applied, yet others have been delayed, leading to the feelings of confliction. On one hand, AI-generated content needs to be labeled as AI in order to build transparency with the user. The issue with deepfakes, however, is the ability to avoid AI labels, in which current model systems do not exist to detect and to label them. On top of non-existing laws governing AI development, punishments and regulations for deepfakes are insufficient for the future. The European Act in Article 99 also established a role and enforcement in penalties for violations, with fines that can reach up to 35 million euros. These fines may be effective in the meantime, but fines fail to impact the smaller magnitude of users who violate this jurisdiction. Fines also do not prevent the creation and the spread of deepfakes in general, unlike other measures of educating the technology of deepfakes, which would be a more preferred solution over the method of fines. Furthermore, deepfake technology's global impact makes it difficult to treat deepfake content internationally, allowing malicious actors to exploit the Legal Protection Act for deepfake technology, as different countries vary in their emission of deepfake content. This lack of worldwide enforcement in deepfake technology continues to raise concerns. in particular to the lack of clear regulations distinguishing the illegal and the harmful content. In summary, international collaboration is necessary to build a constant framework to govern the responsible use of this technology, involving organizations that deal with it on a global level, such as the United Nations, is necessary to harmonize laws across multiple borders and multiple countries. Next, deepfake violates laws through repurposed media. The rise of deepfake material has sparked numerous debates regarding its eligibility for copyright protection. Since deepfake material is content generated through computers, there can be two primary interpretations of who the creators are. The first is the one who created the program, and the second is the one who utilizes the program. However, the US court has specifically stated that copyright protection is generally held by human creators, which excludes AI systems from holding any copyright. Under the fair use doctrine in the United States, the 4 points of copyrighted works are the purpose of its usage, the nature of its copyrighted work, the amount of stability of the portion taken, and the potential effect it has on a global market. These 4 points does not address deepfake as a malicious stance, since it falls under protection of transformative use. Parodists have often used this defense to claim that deepfake is on the grounds of parody and is immune to copyright protection. So let us take the story of Sophie Parrish, a mother of two. An avid florist from Ainsdale, she would receive a message on Facebook one day. The messages she received contained digitally manipulated pictures of her doing sexually explicit things that she has never done before, becoming a primary victim of deepfake pornography. Sick to her stomach, she reported her findings to the police, who would then detain the perpetrator. Parrish immediately requested to these website owners to get her pictures taken down. However, since these images were classified as fantasy, the website that hosts them had no obligation to remove them whatsoever. She was violated out of her dignity, and her privacy was compromised. Lastly, deepfake technology poses significant threats to the integrity and reliability of the digital world. For one, normalizing the usage of deepfakes will question what we know as true. While hoaxes and false news have existed since the dawn of the internet, today's tools would enable a more sinister exploitation. For instance, cybercriminals can oftentimes use cross-platform impersonation attacks to commit identity theft. These criminals can collect data from social media platforms, such as LinkedIn, Facebook, and X, in order to impersonate individuals on WhatsApp and Telegram. With the rise of social media and deepfake technology, fake news are able to spread faster and more widely than ever before, provoking intense emotions to violence. The new era of deepfake content poses a significant threat to the national security of a country. Additionally, in a 2025 study, they surveyed over 2,000 UK and US consumers, testing them through a series of real and deepfake content. The results were nonetheless alarming, as only 0.1% of the participants are able to successfully identify through the series of real and deepfake content that were shown. Older generations are more vulnerable to deepfakes, as the study included 30% of people aged 55 to 64. Those aged 65 and above have never even heard of the term deepfake, signifying a clear knowledge gap between different generations. Despite the significantly poor performance of detecting deepfake content, over 60% of people remain confident in their detection skills, believing that they can still differentiate between the real and fake content. This study shows that while 3 in 4 people are concerned about the societal impact of fake news, most do not verify the authenticity and reliability of the media that they consume online. Combined with the overconfidence in spotting AI-generated media and the general lack of skepticism, it fuels growing concern around deepfake's rise in the online sphere. Additionally, deepfake technology gives more power to people who own the data, allowing them to manipulate existing content. Meta, the company behind Instagram, also owns Facebook and WhatsApp, having major communication platforms under one entity. Every day, we use these social media platforms, as Facebook serves as the primary example, holding 59.38% of 5.17 billion social media users globally. Facebook collects user data, such as location, ID, political and religious beliefs, web browsing history, and a bunch more of other personal data. Legally, they are able to collect this data due to the user and service agreement. However, Facebook announced in an update that they wanted to prioritize posts that spark meaningful interactions with the user. However, a counter study to this update revealed that this update would be more sinister. As for the most politically orientated Facebook users, 90% of their feed are filled with political and social issue content, with amalgamations of misinformation. Moreover, Facebook's algorithm favors more emotionally engaged content, amplifying polarizing content and contributing to Facebook being a more hostile platform. Moreover, during the pandemic, Facebook employees were forced to delete anti-vaccine content and the side effects of taking the vaccine by the US government. Another notable incident is in North Korea. When Kim Jong-un showed off some photos from their military display, experts analyzed that additional photos have been photoshopped to reveal them in higher numbers. Though the image was analyzed to be Photoshop, the intention was clear: to dramatize the power of North Korea's Air Force in order to make it look better. Both of those instances, the government pressuring Facebook to delete content, along with Kim Jong-un's attempts at propaganda, can heavily benefit from the utilization of deepfake technology. With deepfake technology so readily available today, the global attempts of propaganda have gotten significantly easier. Lastly, deepfake technology builds a culture rampant with distrust and false information. Seeing is believing. When we can no longer trust what we see and what we hear, our trust in digitally stored information will erode over time. For example, a finance worker in Hong Kong was tricked into paying over 200 million Hong Kong dollars, about $25.6 million, believing that he was attending a video call with staff members who were in fact deepfake recreations. The worker had grown suspicious of the invitation from a supposedly UK-based chief financial officer. However, casted aside his doubts when he joined the call because the people in attendance sounded exactly just like the colleagues that he recognized. This scam involving the fake CFO was only discovered when the worker checked back with his corporation's office. CNN World reported that on at least 20 occasions, AI deepfakes have been used to trick facial recognition programs by imitating people on identity cards. In the past, 8 stolen identity cards have been significantly utilized to make over 90 loan applications and 54 bank account registrations between the months of July and September in 2023. AI fraud is nothing new. Globally, it has expanded to other parts of the world. Not limited to only Hong Kong, however, the Asia-Pacific region saw a 1,530% increase in deepfake cases in the years of 2022 and 2023, the second highest in the world after North America. Undoubtedly, deepfake technology has become something more lucrative. Some may argue that simple training on media literacy and critical thinking skills is more effective than a total ban on deepfake technology. However, since deepfake technology is constantly evolving, further research and development must be performed in order to create more reliable methods of detecting deepfaked media. Simply put, there is no reliable way for both detection tools and the progression of deepfake technology to be able to synchronize to create a reliable system in which having knowledge of deepfake is sufficient. The progression in deepfake technology leads to heavily realistic fake media, which in turn poses significant challenges to both systematic and human detections. Since deepfake technology is an evolving field, research and development must also constantly evolve to create more reliable method in which education is sufficient. Most might argue that current modern technologies are more than enough to detect existing deepfake content. However, a fatal flaw is seen through these detection systems. As new generators of deepfake technology exist, new samples have likely not been considered when building new detection models. Based on another research study, it goes into an in-depth analysis of the advancement of deepfake technology and the complicated structure that goes behind it. First, we must simply note that deepfake videos cannot simply be fed into a detection tool, since these detectors require a certain input size of the original media, which may differ. It would lead to issues in deepfake detection models if they were purely built on a naturally proportioned image. Hence, the study has found that selecting resizing over cropping when reducing the input size will negatively impact the detection accuracy of these detection tools. Most deepfake detectors have only been trained on a specific dataset, leading to a degradation in performance, especially in compressed and manipulated inputs. This leads these detectors to be incapable of detecting new and unseen deepfakes. As society progresses towards an increasingly digital future, we must take a step back to fully understand the importance of deepfake technology on the future of the internet. We are going into a future full of doubt and uncertainty. So what does it mean for us, everyday people? Although change is necessary, it must first start with us. The first way is to raise awareness on the existence of this technology to everyone, the impact it has, and the dangers it poses to the reliability of the internet. Once regulations are enforced, we must be able to abide by the laws that are enforced to not stir up more trouble. Therefore, deepfake technology should be regulated from the general public in order to dampen the chaos in society. Thank you.
Good job, Jonathan. Our panelists today are Ms. Marisa and Mr. Joel. Mr. Joel, I will let you go first.
Okay, thank you, Jonathan. This is a very, very important topic to get us thinking, get us pondering, and really think about the implications, what it means. Personally, I really found myself thinking about, yes, I'm already mostly persuaded by your arguments.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want my daughters or my sons to have their pictures or their videos up on social media to be scraped and one day in the future to be exploited. I hate that that is something that is happening to people, so I think we need to be really aware. And that would lead me to then say, to ask you, it seems like what you're advocating for is a kind of a reactive, reactionary, punitive model of how are we going to regulate it, and it's kind of it's an after the fact kind of thing. And so I would say, what are your suggestions for this other side instead of reactive? How about a proactive? Could you highlight some of those your ideas there in the paper?
Can I ask for a more specific definition on the proactive side?
Well, yeah, in your paper, I feel like you gave a little bit of suggestions of what we need to do today. It starts with us.
Yeah.
What are those proactive things that we can be doing now so that we're not always in the reactive side?
In my opinion, there's multiple layers to this. I think for one is familiarizing yourself with AI at this point, being able to understand the implication of AI, and not just limited to deepfakes, but AI as a general system as a whole, what it's capable of. I think being updated on this kind of thing will allow you to be more, I guess, aware on the internet that this is the progression of AI now. Like, for example, we had the recent craze with the Ghibli art of ChatGPT. That was new. And then we had like generating actual people through AI are both components of deepfake. So I think that in this particular case, if we want to be proactive, we must constantly update ourselves, we must constantly research to understand AI on a deeper level.
Okay, I agree. Thank you for that answer. I would say, yeah, building more, focusing more on the proactive side would actually generate a better path forward into the future. What you're advocating for is a regulation in the public sphere. You're even saying on the global level, the scale of UN, we're going to have an international cross borders kind of regulatory body that is going to censor and monitor all these things. And I would say that sounds very scary to me, because you said authoritarian regimes are already abusing this, and I'm saying also democratic governments are also abusing this. You cited in your paper the Joe Rogan and Mark Zuckerberg interview, where he was pressured by the American government to censor any opposing opinions that was contrary to vaccine mandates. And so even democratic governments are abusing social media and pressuring for censorship to advance their own agenda. So can you imagine that on a global scale? And that is what you're advocating.
Thank you for that point. And what I would like to say is that sometimes it's contradictory, but it also means that we have to trust the government. For example, all of us here, eventually, if we all work in Indonesia, we are going to pay taxes to the government, which in turn also gives them the power to exploit our money, which they have done in the past. And the issue with this is that no international collaboration can be made without first trying at least. Like what I mentioned here was the United Nations. They were capable of at least uniting certain countries. I think they would be capable of regulating this kind of technology on a global scale. And I think that although it is scary to see mega corporations and governments delving into deepfake technology and manipulating our literacy media as a whole, I think that we must be able to also support those who can. So trusted governments, actually people who wants to actually advocate AI in a positive scale and also acknowledging its negative impacts is also preferred, though I understand if it does seem contradictory for bringing up the multiple borders and countries and also bringing up mega corporations.
Do you trust your government?
No.
But you just told me to trust my government.
Is your government the US government?
Yeah, this is so tricky, right? There's so many nuanced things. Who do I trust? That's a big issue that's underlying this discussion. So if I can't trust, if I don't know who to trust, tell me some guiding principles. Where do I go to get wisdom from this?
Generally, on the internet, fact check yourself. Oftentimes, when you see a video, understand it on the whole. If you're curious about it, research it online. If anything seems suspicious, research it online. If you don't really care about it, I think you can specifically just dismiss it as just content for entertainment. So even if you cannot trust anyone, I think you can trust yourself to be able to be responsible in educating yourself in information that you consume.
Okay. Yeah, thank you for these answers. It's just opening up a lot of interesting questions for us.
Yes.
I guess how would you go about regulating? You yourself have in your paper were saying the regulations are ineffective, fines are ineffective, cross-border because if one country holds one law and actually tries to punish it, they will skirt and use VPNs and appear as if they're in another country. So it's very tricky. How? Give me 1 or 2 points in your research that you said this was actually effective in regulating this.
So, for example, I think that in most current cases, labeling things that are AI as AI is pretty effective. For example, Samsung has done this with Samsung AI. So if you use any of their AI-generated tools on their devices, once you edit them with AI, it will have a permanent watermark that said that it's AI. And I think that's one of the most effective ways to go about it, that programs and companies like OpenAI, ChatGPT, and other deepfake programs needs to be capable of also labeling it as AI in order to also build transparency with the user so they know what they're interacting with.
Okay, so Samsung actually is kind of leading and pioneering in that
Yes.
that watermark instance. Okay, that's a good example.
I think it's time for us to move over to Ms. Marisa.
Hi, Jonathan. Good
Hi, Miss.
morning.
Good morning, Miss.
Okay. First of all, I would like to say I'm proud of you. Okay, being there, standing up there, and sharing your ideas like this. I think it's not easy.
Yeah.
Okay, back then. I remember the time when you're still in 6th grade in my class. I mean, it's kind of hard for you sharing your ideas in front of others. Okay, but okay. It's a bit like flashback to me. And I see that you're growing so much in the way you're sharing ideas, opinions, and even you're able to give reasons to your thesis. Okay, so that's a really good job. And one thing came up in my mind. As a high school student, you as a 12th grade student, actually, what is your true motivation that you bring up this topic on your thesis defense?
So the true motivation thank you for the question. The true motivation that I brought up with this is to raise awareness on AI rapidly expanding. Like not even less than 5 years ago, everyone is in this AI craze now. Now everyone in this room uses ChatGPT to a certain extent. right? So I want to show how fast technology evolves. For example, it wasn't that long ago when our phones had physical buttons. Now we're all full-fledged displays, for example. Technology is fast, and we need to be faster, and we need to be able to understand that this is the rapid creation of AI. Like, for example, when ChatGPT first launched, it was mainly dismissed by universities as a fancy autocomplete tool. But now look where it is now. Now a lot of college students are plagiarizing essays. A lot of high school students are using ChatGPT in their assignments. Those are the impacts of AI and technology as a whole. It evolves so rapidly that even if you're not paying attention, you'll definitely miss it. So that is my intention in bringing awareness to this kind of technology. While it may seem small right now, as it's only been used for parody, or like, for example, the recent one is like Donald Trump working in a Chinese sweatshop by the Chinese users, it may seem funny, but as the data stated here, in 2023, 95,820 deepfake videos, and 98% of them are deepfake pornography. So it gives a landscape in which this movement of technology is fast, and we need to be able to acknowledge that we cannot be left behind by this technology.
Okay. It rings me a bell. Like, I read one of scientific journal recently. It was written by Jeffrey Hinton. He was known as the godfather of AI. So he was one of the data scientists work in Google. Okay. So in 2023, he left his position in Google. Okay. He said that he would like to talk about the dangers of AI. So on 2023, also the same year, he met Elon Musk, and then they like having some kind of short discussion to give awareness to people about the dangers of AI and deepfake. I mean, so on your opinion, who do you think the most responsible people or part of society that needs to be the one that need to raise more awareness about the dangers of this AI or deepfake?
The people
Who do you think the most responsible person for doing it?
I think those with large backings, especially companies like OpenAI and now DeepSeek, are probably responsible for this. I think they hold the responsibility that although maybe for us we're incapable of educating, they need to be able to at least give frequent updates on the progression of AI, how it's made. And I think they've done a very lucrative job in a way where it does seem that they are updating people on the current state of AI and what's looked for more in the future. But I think at the same time, they profit off the shock value of it. So although they are responsible for that, I think that they need to be more regulated in developing their AI models.
Okay, thank you.
Good job, Jonathan. There's a couple of things that come to mind. A few years ago, like you said, now everyone uses ChatGPT, right? So ChatGPT came out. LA teachers like me and Mr. Joel, we're like, we got to police this. So we start out with the the AI police, right? We use the AI checkers and give you zeros if you use it. And it didn't take long before we realized this is a losing battle. We can't win this battle, right? There are too many AI tools that say they can do better than ChatGPT and make something that the AI checkers can't detect, and all of that. And so the new approach for the world of LA is to say, well, how do we coexist with it? Because we can't fight it. We can fight it in some ways, but what we want to do is figure out, well, what do we really want to do in our classrooms, right? So with all that as a background, don't you think we're up against the same thing with like deepfake technology? It seems like there's a point at which we've got to figure out how to live with it because we may not be able to detect it, like you said. So isn't that sort of, what would you say to that? If someone says, we can't fight it, we've just got to figure out how to live with it.
Thank you for the question. I definitely agree with their sentiment. as I have previously mentioned, AI is rapidly progressing. We cannot really keep up with it, in fact. However, even if that's the case, having some knowledge of the existence of this technology, having some backing of this technology, is more useful than having zero knowledge of it at all. Being able to be aware, be able to be self-aware, to recognize that certain things that you see on social media can be AI, and it does happen, is a useful counterpart for you to be able to be more responsible, to be more self-aware, to be able to be more diligent in finding information that are viable, that are backed by research, that are backed by multiple studies.
Okay, good. In less than a year ago, there was a plane crash in America where I looked at a YouTube video to see what happened in this crash, right? Ever since then, every day I get YouTube videos of plane crashes, and 99 point whatever % of them are just fake, right? And I can tell right now. But there's going to be a time where it's not so easy to tell, and some of these are hard to tell. But it reminds me of 1938. I'm not really that old, but in 1938, H.G. Wells, a science fiction writer, created this radio play called War of the Worlds, and he put it on the radio, and the nation believed it. Many people thought there were aliens dropping down into New York City or wherever it was. And it caused a panic. It's such a panic that even some people are reported to have died in some way or another due to this panic, right? Mm-hmm. Don't you think we have a real possibility of generating that kind of panic with deepfake AI, whether it's people, world leaders involved in something, or even, aliens dropping into New York City?
Thank you for that point. I think you bring up a very important point here. And even if that happened in 1938, as you said, and that was just a radio station, deepfake amplifies that risk, right? Because now we actually have footage, we actually have videos that looks like it actually does happen. And however, I think further research needs to be built on that. I think you need to be able to at least recognize what you want to use deepfake for. Like, for example, in the film industry, you utilize it for de-aging actors, recreating actors, to replace stunt doubles. I think we need to make it set in clear on what deepfake is truly for. And in that case, well, we also have to educate everyone around here, everyone in this room, whether they're old, whether they're young, that this kind of technology exists. And it is difficult, but I think that we can get through it if we persist.
Yeah, what you started to say there is addressing a question that some of your peers have, which is, aren't there benefits of it? I mean, are there some good things we can do with deepfake technologies? I know the dead actor thing, but what else?
I think there are other benefits, but it would mainly be subjective. So if I were to bring up an example of deepfake being used for good, I would bring up Kendrick Lamar's The Heart Part 5 music video. In the video, he utilizes deepfake technology to shapeshift into multiple different celebrities, and every time he does, it connects to the lyrics of his song, which in turn makes a good artistic interpretation. But everyone is subjective. Everyone doesn't have the same creative mindset, for example, as Kendrick Lamar. And those kind of details is what makes it a subjective opinion that I think it's best to be left in the dark rather than have it open to the public.
Any other questions from the panelists?
I'm curious on one of a biblical worldview. How is your biblical worldview coming to bear on this? And also, as humans, why can't we stop using it? Like if I knew, if I was a young teenage girl and I knew that uploading my pictures and my videos onto my Facebook, it actually puts me at risk that I'm going to be exploited, and they're going to create nasty videos that I will never be able to take down, and nobody's going to be able to tell the difference. Like, there's a good likelihood that I could be exploited and blackmailed, and that will be really ruin my whole self-image if you see that, and and all your friends around you are giggling and saying, "Oh, look at this." if I knew the risks involved, why would I ever participate in that platform? I should never even upload any videos there. But why do we keep going there, you know? The risks. We have to educate ourselves of the risks. But also your biblical worldview. I'd like to hear that.
Thank you for that point. I think we are all beautifully and wonderfully made in the image of God as well. So I think why do we keep doing that, even though it's like the same question as I would want to ask you, why do you keep using the internet if you know all your data is stored on people's servers, on corporation servers, rather that you don't use the internet at all because then your data stays with you. But we are digitally connected. This is how we operate now. This is the new era. We cannot stay off the internet because the internet is just too useful to discard in our everyday lives. And most of all, uploading pictures is also just a way of people's expression. That's the way that they want to express themselves, for example. Or maybe it's just that they want to share photos. Maybe to some people, that's not really their thing, but to others, it is. And so that is also a subjective point of view in my eyes.
All right. Thank you, Jonathan. Your time is up. You've done a great job. Okay, so next what we'll do is we'll meet friends and family over here and panelists for our photos. And we will start with Keishi in about 5 minutes, maybe a little bit after 10:30.